And we are back right here on Freedom 106.5. This is the digital world that happens every single Friday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Or if you are listening from Thailand, it happens from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. We work the graveyard shift apparently on this side now. Oh my goodness. But this is a conversation. Funny enough, I had this for a conversation I wanted to have in February, but the world has changed three times over in January, and it is still January. And I had to go and get an AI specialist and technology person to come in and really break down a lot of the things that has been happening because when I speak to people across the Caribbean region, I don't think we appreciate just what has transpired this month. And I don't know if we truly understand that with this AI race that is about to take place, there is going to be so much transformation at an accelerated rate in the job market that we really have to wrap our minds around this and start preparing. That being said, we had to get Mr. Leslie Lee Fook, who is a distinguished leader in the Caribbean digital technology landscape. With over 2 decades of experience, Leslie is a director and co-founder of INCUS Services Limited, a premier analytics and information security consulting firm based right here in Trinidad and Tobago. Throughout his career, Leslie has specialized in analytics, robotic process automation, and artificial intelligence, managing enterprise level IT projects across the UK and the Caribbean. His expertise spans both corporate and governmental sectors, where he has applied his knowledge to drive significant digital transformation. Leslie's passion for AI is evident in his work on chatbots, which he identifies as a key tool for business leaders. He emphasizes that chatbots are an accessible entry point for integrating AI into business operations, enhancing customer engagement and operational efficiency. And we'll be diving in on that. Beyond his professional endeavors, Leslie is committed to education and skill development. He leads initiatives at the INCUS Academy aiming to equip the region's workforce with practical and immediate skills necessary for today's market. Recognizing the accelerated digitization of our world, Leslie emphasizes that data privacy is imperative, asserting that data is the new air. His forward thinking approach and dedication to technological advancement have positioned him as the leading data transformation strategist and educator in the Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Mr. Leslie Lee Fook. Leslie, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm good. I'm good, my friend. Thank you for such a fantastic introduction. I suspect ChatGPT wrote that.
Listen to me. We
Because that was
employ
me.
all of the tools.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But you left out
Listen,
the most important part.
which part?
Former Calvin Klein underwear model.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm just messing with
You
you,
know
man.
what?
Great to be here. Great to be here. Great to be here.
Listen, it's really been an exciting 2 years. Whenever we think of,
Oh man.
just the use cases for all of this technology, there is so many. And now with a lot of the AI applications that we have, it really does feel like, especially as a solopreneur, it really does feel like I have a team because
Yep.
there's so many applications that do so many different things for me that allow me to scale as a one person
Mhm.
business. And as Sam Altman said last year, 2025 might be the first year where a solopreneur business reaches a valuation of $1 billion due to
Yeah, we're gonna
artificial
see.
intelligence.
Yeah, we might see
So
our first one person unicorn this year.
yeah, I could see it. So again, this conversation, we definitely wanted to have it in January because so much has changed. But before we get into just the AI industry, I'm sure there are people that are going to be listening in who have not heard about Leslie. Tell us a bit about yourself and tell us about Incus and what Incus does.
Sure. I mean, I do, me, I'm a humble person. I'd like to talk much about myself, but I like to describe myself as the least technology savvy technology person around there, right? I keep things at a very simple level. I just happen to be in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time really early
Yeah.
on. And that's how we ended up in AI. And we started to do things primarily because of lockdown. Like when we went into lockdown, I guess where the whole world is today, mostly, at
Yeah.
least in the region, people are asking like, how do I prompt in ChatGPT? What are the other tools out there? And those are questions we answered 5 years ago. So we just happen to
Mm.
just be at the party a lot earlier than everybody else. And because of that, you're talking about you have a little bit of an army behind you right now. We've had
Yeah.
that army for years. So that's how
Mm.
we run circles around competitors. And that's what I want to bring to the conversation today. How do more people get that? Because wouldn't you agree, like most people in the region, we're overworked. Some people 2 jobs, 3 jobs, they're trying to make ends meet and they're working
Absolutely.
hard, but not necessarily smart. And that's what we want to do today.
Absolutely. Now, a big part of the show is all of our guests are building careers in spaces where 10 years ago probably didn't exist. When you were
Mhm.
probably growing up and you were asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? You couldn't have even have conceptualized what we're doing today because again, a lot of it didn't exist. That being said, we have people who listen to the program and are trying to figure out where to start guiding their kids or also how they can pivot. So, for Leslie, for where you sit and for the skill sets that you have had, talk to us a bit about, how you've acquired some of the skills, what are some good pathways to obtain some of the knowledge that you have, just so people can get an idea as to how do they become the
Yeah.
next Leslie or better?
So yeah, no, so that's good, great question. And I think if you speak to most entrepreneurs, and I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, I just don't like to work for anybody else. But if you talk to any entrepreneur, they're generally smart people, right? They figure things out. But what I realized in life that really smart, like the smartest people out there, they learn from other people's mistakes. So like if I had a lesson that I could share to my 20-year-old self, it would be get a mentor. So find somebody
Mm.
that you want to, that's admirable, that you want to be able to replicate in life, and get on them and learn the lessons from them faster. And I think that's more important than figuring out things the hard way, because the one resource that we all cannot get back is what? Is time.
Time.
Yeah, man, time.
Absolutely.
So AI is,
Absolutely.
and plus some life-changing events help me really reflect on the importance of time. And that's what AI guys
Mm.
gets you back ultimately.
Big time, absolutely big time. So, were there with the skill sets that you have? Were there certifications that you went out and got? Are you somebody who, when something new and shiny comes out, you tinker,
Well,
and learn the
yeah,
old-fashioned way?
yeah.
How did you get into your role?
So you boxing me in here, Keron. So
Oh, okay.
there are four letters that defined me for a really long time, and those 4 letters are COXX, and it's not what you think. It's actually my A-level results. So when you ask me about
Mm.
qualifications and all of these things, I got Cox at A levels. I got a C in GP, I got a O in chemistry, an X in biology, and an X in math. And why am I sharing that with you guys is because most people think today to be successful with AI, you need to be a data scientist, when the reality is that's not true. And we figured out how to be successful with AI. In fact, how to dominate with AI without being a data scientist. The thing is, and I think the core skill is more than what is the certification you do, is to
Yeah.
is to realize that in this day and age, if you're not a lifelong learner, then you're at a massive disadvantage. And I've always been a lifelong learner.
No, thank you for saying that because I have a similar story as well. I was a high school dropout. All of the skill sets that I have acquired is because I am
Yeah.
somebody where I lifelong learner, buying all the books. I'll spend 1,000 hours on YouTube if I have to, but I'm gonna go and
Mhm.
tinker and I'm gonna go and get my own results. And when you make enough mistakes, you get some wins and you can kind of start to build from there. And again, you're always just getting your hands dirty. And now, I'm teaching in 2 universities and I still
Yeah,
don't have the degree. However,
I do.
you're in
Yeah,
a
I know.
position
Yeah.
because you have the skill sets and you can try and you can bring them. So I'm glad that you shared that because a lot of parents need to hear that
Yeah.
as
There's a
well.
there's a super cool acronym that I hear. So there's one of my early mentors, a guy called Jared
Yeah.
Heath. Right. I asked him what his qualifications were, right? And he said he's
Yeah.
QBE. Right. I was like, what was QBE? You've never heard of QBE. He said qualified by experience. And that's what we
Hmm.
ultimately bring. That's what we ultimately bring, right?
Yes. And that's key. And that's key. Now, the world has changed in January of
Oof.
2025. A lot has happened. But you know what? Before we talk about what's happening today, AI really became mainstream 2 years ago. It feels like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2022, we
Mm-hmm.
weren't really speaking about AI, and it's like the clock struck 12 for January
Yeah.
2023. Chat GPT drops and the entire world has changed. Kind of walk us through some of like the key milestones that have happened over the past 2 years to kind of just bring us to where we are today.
Yeah. So even beyond like the release of the technology itself. So ChatGPT, November 2022, we've been fortunate to be part of a team that was using very, very old versions of it. So we've been using ChatGPT for a long time. So in
Yeah.
2022, there was no surprise. But when it came out, some things immediately happened in the world, right? Now, there's an exam called the Uniform Bar Exam. I don't know if we have any lawyers tuned in today, but in November of 2022, it sat the Uniform Bar Exam and it scored in the bottom 10 percentile. It sucked.
Yeah.
Now, how long do you think it takes to become a lawyer? Typically 4 years, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
5 months later, they released the new version of it, and that new version is now in the top 90th percentile of all lawyers who sat that exam. Crazy stuff. That
Hmm.
is that is 2023. We're in 2025 now, right? So nearly 2 years ahead. It's already performing at the PhD level.
Wow.
It is insane. So, for example, like last 2 years ago, there's this massive initiative by the government of Jamaica, and I think they spent like $10 million to train a couple thousand of programmers, coders, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody knows technology future, so it was rational to develop a pool of developers that they could export services to the rest of the world. But
Yeah.
as of November 2024, AI codes. So the thing is, it's not even just the non-technical professionals that are potentially at risk. It's the technical professionals as well. So it's bonkers what's happening today.
I don't think people understand the rate of change that is happening right now. And a big problem is that when we think about change, we are constantly looking back and looking at how change used to happen. How fast is AI updating? How fast is it getting better? And
Yeah.
with the speed that it's getting better, how fast is disruption coming on board in today's
Yeah.
job market?
No, terrific question. Now, I'll just let you know off the gate. Most people, when they see me, when they hear me speak, when they interact with me, they come to my training, they think I am light years ahead of everybody. And
Yeah.
if we use the Caribbean as a yardstick, I might be 7 years ahead of even the enterprises in the region. And not even the region, maybe even large ones, because I have big Canadian
Yeah.
banks on my books, and they say, "Hey, Les,
Yeah.
stuff that you're doing, we're not even there yet, right?"
Yeah.
So we're ahead, but I wake up every morning feeling we're behind. And the only
Mm.
way that we cope with that is, and I'm probably the only person in the entire region with this. I have a team, and all this team does is look at new innovation. That's all they do. So I have
Mm.
a big part of our outfit is R&D. That's all they do.
Yeah.
But not many Caribbean companies invest in R&D.
I don't think I know any that really invests in R&D.
Mm.
But a lot of the
No, there
businesses
was
are buy and sell businesses too. It's just different size.
ish. I think they were successful in their own little space, and
Yeah.
and good decisions, bad decisions. There wasn't much competition. But we
Yeah.
see in the world getting smaller every single day. It's globalizing. I mean, I listened to the previous conversation you had about the impact of the global economy, lessons you can learn from anywhere else. So maybe it's a separate conversation. All right, but we could talk about a non-Chinese man in China, which is very interesting as well. But this is 2017, and I'm in China, and the guy
Yeah.
asked me like, "Hey Leslie, what do you do?" So I was like, "I'm in AI." He's like, "Oh, we are getting serious about AI." I was like, "Well, what does that mean?" Right? What's serious? He said, "Well, we are building a city."
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the folks that have been to China, a city is 10 million people. So they're building a whole city, and everybody in that city works on AI. and they can just throw thousands of PhDs at a problem. And that's when I really realized, that was my moment. And I was like, whoa, we need to do something back home. Otherwise, we will be behind for forever. Because this race, that digital divide is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you look at what's dominating news today, all that DeepSeek, Trump throwing $500 billion into Stargate, all of those things, is because there's this big war right now globally. And the person that wins, they take 90% of the market. That's what's going on right now.
This month, Trump has signed some executive deals. One of the executive orders being that they remove the moral restrictions off of AI innovation, and he just wants his people to innovate. A couple days later, DeepSeek drops their new R1 reasoning model. $600 billion gets wiped out of the stock market. What is going on? From your perspective, what happened? We've had a very interesting week.
Yeah, it's
what
been
is
crazy. So just that change in administration, I mean, very interesting. So the previous administration, which many people don't even know, because a lot of us in the region, we use ChatGPT, we use products like Copilot, but that was last year, that was banned by the Congress of the United States of America. US company, US products banned by the US Congress. Why is that? Right? It's because of privacy concerns. Flipping administration, now they're all into AI. Right? Now, I don't want this to be a political conversation, but what if we had a president for life? Because he had access to the most valuable thing on the planet, which is, we all know, is data. And then he had the ability to squeeze the juice, every single drop of juice out of that data, because he had AI. That's the world that we're going to be living in, right? If we're not cognizant of our actions today or non-actions today.
Yeah. What is DeepSeek?
So DeepSeek is one of the best performing AIs today. What is interesting about it is what took, and I forget the figure, I think $100 million to produce by their first competitor, or the number one player in the market. Today, DeepSeek was able to replicate something that was just as good for $6 million, for a fraction of the money, that performs at the same level, but is cheaper to run and operate. That is open source. What is that? That's free for anybody to use on the planet. So they took a highly proprietary, highly performing company, an AI, and they created a competitor and they gave it away to the rest of the world. So much so, this is the crazy part, so much so that that original company, right, their closest partner, which is Microsoft, is now using that model. And Microsoft is a major shareholder in OpenAI. So they've launched, this is the last 2 days, right? So what you and I, when you reached out, you're like, you know, it's crazy what's happening in January. I was like, yeah, and it's not even done. This thing is like a soap opera.
No, it really is.
Yeah, it's like a soap opera meets the Jetsons. That's what it is like.
It really is. It really is, and it's not going to slow down. It is going to ramp up.
Yep.
And I want you to give us some context, right? With this brewing AI war that is happening between China, between the US, and at some point the Europeans are going to come in and they're going to have some stuff, and we're going to see more AI solutions. AI solutions are going to be more accessible. They're going to be more cost effective. What does this mean for the Caribbean?
Yeah.
What does this mean for us?
So we are cattle at the slaughter right now if we continue on the same pace. So for a long time, and if you think about anything, this is not just about technology, but if you think about anything, we're primarily consumers of it.
Yeah.
The biggest problem for us right now in Trinidad is our foreign exchange deficit. But if you go into the largest, I don't want to name names, but if you go into the largest retail outlets, 90% of the goods are imported. So it's not just about technology. The reality is, though, that this technology thing is, everybody with a smartphone would now be a consumer of one of the big tech companies. And what that's doing, it's one, and I'm not opposed to efficiency by any means, right? But it's now cutting the supply chain, and it's now killing innovation. That's pretty much what it's doing for us in the region here. Because we're not creating products, we're not consuming products. I'll give you an example. But beyond
Yeah.
innovation, it's killing our culture. Right? What I mean by that.
Break that down.
So for example, if you go to one of my favorite country on the planet is a country called Suriname. I would say 90%, 99% of Trinidadians don't know much about Suriname. It is a 45-minute flight away. It's super, super close.
Yeah.
I go there, and in Suriname, there are, I don't want to misquote, 400,000 people or 600,000 people, but there are 12 spoken languages. 12.
Wow.
And there's a particular language called Anstongo, which is not a very well documented language outside of Surinamese context.
Yeah.
These models, for example, they primarily speak English.
Yeah.
So when somebody goes and they try to use something like Sorontongo in there, and they realize it's crap, they'll default back to English.
Yeah.
And over time, as kids start using more English in that country, that language disappears.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of their culture. But the same thing happens to the rest of us in the world. And that's why, as content creators, that's why I really admire the work that you do. Because it's the stuff that you do, the stuff that you create online, ethically or unethically, that these models are taking and they're training themselves on. So if I went in there and I said, hey, XYZ, GPT, give me a script for a podcast in the style of Keron, I'd probably get something really good.
Yeah.
Because you have produced so much content out there. But they're actually taking our IP. So like this week, which was crazy, the US is up in arms that the Chinese used OpenAI to create their model. Right? They're stealing their intellectual property and they're upset about it. The irony, yeah. But they're stealing creators' content to create OpenAI. Right? So it is a soap opera. That's what it is. But everything that we saw as kids, all this sci-fi stuff is all coming true. I mean, this is what's taking headlines today, but most people aren't aware of things like Neuralink. Most people.
Yeah, correct.
Which is next level.
Correct.
Because the conversation so far is still about the digital world, but what happens when digital meets physical? When AI is walking down the road? That's what nobody's talking about.
We're still trying to convince people to get a website to do e-commerce. Like we still haven't grasped Web 2.0. Yeah. And we are so far away from that it worries me. And I think the biggest worry that I have is the speed of change, because we already culturally don't want to change. Yeah. And now when you're putting the rate of change at hyper speed, this is going to be really problematic.
Yeah, no, I agree and I disagree. So I agree from the perspective. Can I give you a little pushback on that one?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So like I agree that we're behind, in terms of a general yardstick. I agree with that. Right. What I disagree with is the speed of change to get there. I don't think change is a process. I think change happens in a moment. So if you think about any transformative point in time in your life, it's because of this big incident that made you stop and reflect. Yeah. And I think that's what we need in this country. So if you think about it.
yeah. Right? We thought it would have been COVID. We thought it would have been COVID.
No, because everybody went back to let's work at the office and sit in 2 hours of traffic every single day.
Yeah.
I haven't, you haven't. So you're on the other side of the world running a radio show. That's amazing. And that's how we should all be thinking about the world, because wouldn't you be happier with that type of lifestyle? I think everybody would be. So what's interesting now is that, one, we need to have that moment, right?
Yeah.
But once we have that moment, then the tools and technologies gets us there really quickly.
Yeah.
So you just need to be motivated to do it. So to build a website, if I had to use that as an example, AI could build me a website in 2 minutes now.
Yep.
Yeah. Is it as good as the quality stuff that you might do? No. But I have a website up in a little bit.
And it will get there.
We can get there.
It will get there. And I think that's something that people discount. I think a lot of times we look at some AI outputs, especially in the creative spaces. We're looking at generated art and whatnot. And people will say, oh, AI is still messing up the limbs. It's still messing up. And I just keep
Yeah.
on telling people this thing is
Yep.
getting better and better.
Yep. That's
Before you
it.
know it, it's
Yeah.
perfecting everything. It's
Yeah.
not a
That's
matter
it.
of if, it's when. It's just
When?
when is
Yeah.
it going to? That's the only question.
So
So
the
go ahead.
context, yeah, the context I like to paint that in is like, do you think AI is getting better or worse? And you answered that question just now.
Yeah.
So the reality is, this is the worst, this is the dumbest that AI will ever be. And if it only gets better, then what does that mean for me? What does that mean for you? And if you get that, then things start moving.
So the question that I get asked a lot is AI comes, disrupts, a lot of jobs
Yeah,
get displaced. There are going to be people that are going to upskill or reskill and they
yeah,
will move on,
yeah, yep,
but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be displaced. You know,
yep.
what should people who are feeling like they could potentially be displaced, what are some of the things that they should be doing right now? These are people who might
Yeah,
not be the most tech savvy people. You know, they're worried because when you look at all the reports about the fastest growing industries, the top growing skill sets, they're all technical skills. You know, what should people be looking at right now? Can AI help the people who might not be too tech savvy?
yeah. Well, I mean, I consider myself not to be that tech savvy. They're far smarter people than me on the planet, but we've been able to carve out an
Yeah,
interesting practice, and we compete. We compete at a global level, right?
yeah,
But I started somewhere. So in terms of advice for what, if you want to be able to get there fast, right? It comes back to the first question we talked about on this conversation is find a mentor. Find somebody who succeeded and learn from them. And
yeah,
I love it. There's this guy called Michael Lichin, and I don't know how many trainees know Michael. You know Michael, but
yeah, yeah,
ultimately he says, when you find somebody successful, you take the, and I paraphrasing obviously, you take
yeah.
you take their process, you take their recipe, and you don't change it until you get to their results or get past it, and then you can change your recipe. So that's the fastest ultimately way to get there, and that's how I kind of see the world, that's how I see life. But if there's one skill that they could all learn to really change their outcomes, um,
Yeah.
we'll close with that, and I'll have a little bonus for them at the end. So they have to stick
Hey,
around
no
for the rest of
problem.
the program.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Good. I like that. I like that. With coming back to the US, right? The
Uh-huh.
US has made
Yeah.
a massive announcement, the announcement of Stargate. You know, break
Yes.
down for the people who don't know what Stargate is, just tell us
Yeah.
a bit about, what Stargate is and
Yeah.
why this is an important development for the industry of artificial
Absolutely. So
intelligence.
so to put it into perspective, a couple of years back, maybe year and a half, 2 years ago,
Hmm.
Microsoft invested 10 billion
Hmm.
into OpenAI, right? Massive amount of money. What is $10 billion look like as it's framed against Stargate? So Stargate
Yeah.
is this group of I guess investors who've come together to invest $500 billion, 50 times more than the previous investment in AI. So Microsoft bought pretty much 49-50% of OpenAI for 10 billion. Now Stargate, which is sanctioned by Trump, is a group of investors, including some Japanese investors, um, and some folks from Dubai, I believe it is,
Yeah.
to put 550 times as much money, right, to be spent in the next 4 years to make OpenAI, because OpenAI is going to be the only AI company that's going to be the benefactor of that money, to build them the biggest data center in the world, to be a monopoly on AI.
Wow.
That's what is going to happen.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, if you think about today, guys, like if you think about for the folks that have kids, what happens when the internet
Yeah.
switches off? 4 years from now, what happens when the AI switches off? Right? When everybody's dependent on it. And there will be one
Mm,
utility company. That's the whole intention behind Stargate. There'll be one utility company for AI.
yeah. Wow. So again, these are the conversations we need to have so we can get people getting their mind wrapped around it. Now, we've touched on the impact on jobs from the kind of the negative aspect, but with this entire global transformation, what should the Caribbean start getting excited about? Like, where are some
Yeah.
of the opportunities that we can
Yeah.
start to participate in, that we can start to get our slice of the pie and start to
Yeah.
get this new money that is now being pumped into the global economy?
Yeah, man. So much like you, I have lived all over the world. Much
Hmm.
like you, I came back home to serve my country, to serve my region,
Yeah.
and I consider myself a Caribbean boy. How is the region, how is Trinidad going to compete in this whole landscape? Is that in the previous sort of industrial revolutions, it was the highly funded countries, highly funded companies. It's the big fish that ate the small fish.
Yeah.
Today, the world that we live in this particular technology, it's the fast fish that eat the slow fish, right? So it kind of comes back to that
Mm.
change and mindset and all those things that you're talking about, right? But the reality is this: why do I love the Caribbean so much? Is that, I mean, we have jokes, right? You have an American, an English guy, and a Trini, right? And the Trini always comes out on top. The Bajan always comes out on top. The Jamaican always comes. So innate in our DNA is, how do we do more with less? And
Mm.
this particular stuff is that's what it boils down to. It boils down to creativity. It boils down to resourcefulness,
Yeah.
right? And we are, well, 1.4 strong, right? Like creative, like creativity oozes
Extremely.
out, positive or negative creativity, but but creativity oozes out of us. And if we could tap into that creativity and we could start using this technology, which now be more affordable to everybody, because literally, what does it cost for? And I'm not recommending these tools because there's a price for the tools. A lot of the tools are priced at free, but the cost is our data, which
Yeah.
is way more valuable than that, right? So we're giving away
Yeah.
this stuff. We've already given up on our privacy for utility,
Yeah.
right? And if you think this is not about AI, this is about everything. This is about
Yeah.
Facebook. This is about all of those things. But if we're able to be creative and create products and services and solve problems in a unique way, because that's what we're good at,
Yeah.
then we could start exporting services to the rest of the world. And this is what I'm very passionate about. We have a unique way
Absolutely.
of
I
problem
mean,
solving.
you've been putting in a whole lot of work in getting the region to upskill and see the opportunity of
Yeah.
AI, and we need a whole lot more of that because this global transfer of wealth, we need to tap into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 100%.
We are seeing the limitations of living in smaller developing states like the Caribbean if you're
Yeah.
only trying to get opportunities within the country. At some point, we have enough doctors, we have enough lawyers. We need people that are tapping into these other skill sets.
Yeah. So that's a great reference point. I don't know how
Mhm.
many doctors you think are graduating every year, right? How many lawyers are graduating everywhere?
UA has said a few hundred. Every
All right.
every
Perfect.
article has been like 300 new doctors, and most
Yeah.
importantly, they can't get jobs after.
Yeah. Well, this is it. So AI is replacing doctors. It's replacing lawyers.
Oh,
But how many people do we have graduating with AI, with data science, with those sort of things? So even our
yeah.
curriculum has some catching up to do. I'm not, because I came through a different route,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I still think structured education is useful, right? It
Yeah.
just needs to be relevant. That's what it needs to be, which is my biggest concern with
Yes.
education that exists today.
Yes. And you know what? And ultimately that is it. Like there is a place for formal education, but one of the things that, even in my meetings with some of our tertiary schools, it's
Yeah.
like enrollment is down, but I'm only coming to a university to
Yeah.
ultimately get a job. And if the skills or the things that
Well,
you're teaching are not
yeah.
relevant, and I can't get into this new market, then what am I doing here?
Yeah. So that is certainly a major part of it. Like if they revise the curriculum. But I think the bigger question they need to ask themselves is their business model, is it changing? Because
Mhm.
knowledge today has become a commodity. I'll give an example.
Yes.
I had a conversation with the head of a very big business school this week, and I asked them like how many programs, how many students did they train last year on their smaller short courses and stuff. So he said, look, we trained 4,000 people across 70 odd programs. I was
Yeah.
like, serious? Last year, our academy trained 3,500 people just on AI.
Oh,
That's the
damn.
75 programs, right? Now,
Yeah.
this year, My goal is to train 300,000 people. That's what we're going to do this year,
Yeah.
right? We're already very well positioned to do that. But what happens to their traditional business model when I do that?
Yeah.
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 So we live in
Yeah.
interesting
Very
times.
valid point. Very valid point. And now when you have some of the biggest companies around the world that have dropped the formal education requirement in
Mm-hmm.
preference for a portfolio
Mm-hmm.
and the skills, this
Mm-hmm.
is just giving more credence to the fact that people just need to
Yeah.
start just start
Yeah.
somewhere and start to get those skills because the skills are extremely important now.
We are still very stuck in our colonial ways, right? So I'll give you an example. When
Yeah.
I speak on a panel and I look on my left and I look on my right, they're two PhDs, right? Who the
Uh,
reality is, right? Who are brilliant minds, but the reality is are less experienced than I am. I just
yes.
learned my lessons the hard way, right? And that is ultimately what we're missing. So like getting those tangible wins, getting those, and then being able to share that, I think that lifts everybody up.
Yeah, correct, 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 correct. And yeah. For businesses, because we have a lot of businesses that are listening to the
Yeah.
program, what are some of the low-hanging fruit that AI could come in and start
Yeah.
to help them with some processes, even on just a basic level?
Yeah, oh man, is everywhere. So even before you get to the process level, because a lot of smaller businesses don't feel like they have a good handle on process, right?
Yeah.
But if I were to share like a simple stat with you, I mean, who would want to get more email, right? Everybody's like flooded with emails. So there's some
Mhm.
studies that show that on average we receive 120 emails a day, right? We respond to about 40% of those emails, and that consumes 2.6 hours of our life every single day.
Wow.
Right? So if all you did was use AI, now there's safe ways and there are unsafe ways to do it, but if all you
Mhm.
did was use AI to cut that time in half, that buys you back an hour every single day of your life, an hour every day, 240 working days of the year. That's 2 full weeks. That's a 2 week
Mm.
vacation. So it doesn't have to be these complicated processes, these big projects. It could be a simple thing that we have to do every day, which is check our email.
Okay, okay. Give us a couple other examples. I know a lot of companies are calling you, and I think
Yeah,
one of the issues is that um when you have smaller businesses, medium-sized businesses, they spend more time
yeah,
working in the business. They don't have the time to work
absolutely.
on the business and learn
Yeah,
about what are the new things that can come in and help them. So what are some other examples that AI can kind of
yeah,
come in and help
yeah.
businesses?
Yeah, so this form of AI, and there's tons of different types of AI. I'm kind of
Yeah.
speaking specifically to what people refer to as ChatGPT today.
Yeah.
This particular type of AI could do basically anything, pretty much anything, and I would say confidently anything besides mathematical or numerical based tasks that you do today in
Mhm.
your own work. Drafting a letter, responding to an email, putting together a policy, a memo, anything. So let me tell you,
Yeah.
maybe you step back. What is AI? Right?
Yeah.
What is AI? Because we jump in,
Yeah.
right? So the way I like to describe AI is the best employee that you could find. It's an
Mm.
employee that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They don't have bad days. They don't have
Yeah.
they don't get sick days. Are you gonna get in trouble for this?
Yeah.
They don't call the union. Right? It's it's an
Yeah.
employee that's continuously learning every single time they do a transaction. They get better, faster, smarter.
Yeah.
Crazy one is this: is an employee that's experienced and adaptable. What do I mean by that? When we have tough questions in life, what do? We Google it.
Yeah.
This AI today is learned from the same thing that basically Google has.
Yeah.
It's trained on that body of knowledge. So it understands marketing, sales, finance, IT, operations, risk, legal, compliance, um, retail, shipping, banking, insurance. Like you name the industry, you name the job, it understands it because all of that
Yeah.
data is out there. So in terms of what a small business could do with AI, anything that you do on your computer, anything that you do on your phone, AI could potentially augment or automate, which is what we've been doing for a long time. So
Yeah.
people come into like, if it, they want to be more efficient, and I ask them like, what's the yardstick for efficiency? And they say, well, 10% faster. We have processes that take months, like literally months, teams of people, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, and we do it in 7 minutes.
Wow.
But it started off with, can I use email? Can I use AI for my email? Can I use email to draft a letter? We just start. This is where the world is going to be.
That was
We
the
just
starting
started
point,
earlier. Yeah, we just
Yeah.
started earlier than everybody else. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we run in circles around competitors, man.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. One of our big industries is our creative spaces.
Yeah.
In that space, we know that AI is going to have it already impacting the music industry. You know, from where you see AI right now with all the different tools or applications that you are playing around with and looking at, you know, how do you see AI impacting the music industry in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, man. So great question. I think in the short term, now you guys are probably familiar because you're talking about music, right? And everybody's kind of seen or listened to AI music, AI voice clones, and those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, it's those memes on TikTok with Donald Trump dancing and singing, where they've cloned his voice, his image, his likeness, right? That's all AI stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of like our creative industry, if we were to think globally, there's this guy called Tyler Perry, right? So Tyler Perry was building $100 million movie studio, and then one of the AI companies released video AI, and he shut his whole project down. Now those nuances will take a little while to get there because the data that they have is primarily North American data. So if I wanted to get a Tyler Perry script, I could get that. But if I wanted to get a Marshall Montano script, it'll be a little trickier. So the tools, the technologies will exist, but the opportunity for us is to potentially take our data, right? Which is our form of music, our style of music, our style of dance, craft, the way we design costumes, and then create AI for that. So I think that's an opportunity more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, last year I spoke in Queen's Hall. There was a conference on AI in the creative space, and I spoke at that conference. And one of the band leaders was there, and I spoke to him on stage about his process for next year for a band. And he says, actually, it takes longer than a year. So we start 18 months in advance to be able to launch the band. So 6 months before this carnival, we know what we're doing the year after.
Yeah.
And I replicated that process, right, on stage in 7 minutes. 18 months of work. While he was telling me about it. Now, is it a Peter? Well, he was freaked out, right? Is it a Peter Minshall? It's not. How do we get it there? By using our data for ourselves. Right now, we're giving away all our data.
Yeah.
Right? If we use it for ourselves and we develop our own AI, then we could accelerate. So I forget the number, right? So I always ask people like, what's the best carnival in the world?
Yeah.
What is the best carnival in the world? I'll put you on the spot here. And I know you're a well-traveled man. Brazil. Oh, that's fight talk, right?
I know. That's immediate fight talk. But I mean, if we're talking the biggest carnival, it's definitely Brazil.
Yeah. So, but biggest, but right. But if you ask any or if you ask anybody who is into the participation on carnival, Trinidad Carnival is the best carnival in the world.
Greatest
but if you look at
But
if you look at the revenue that Rio generates for their carnival, astronomical. Right, we are fraction. I think we're like 3% of what they generate. 3% our carnival. So there is obviously room to grow. So whilst the creators might be a little worried about, is this AI going to take my job? I think it's really that, is my cup full, half full, or is it half empty? And if you see abundance, if you move first, then you will take 90% of the market. Like so everybody first mover principles. right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going to happen now. The first movers, the fast movers, and not necessarily big movers, the fast fish, they will get everything. So, I already decided what I want to be. I'm a fast fish.
Yeah. How do you see this impacting? What are some of the benefits that we could use AI within the health space? What are some of those things that, because I know you've seen some stuff,
Oh,
some applications, what are some of those things that has really
no,
blown
man.
your mind open?
We've developed those things. We've developed
Oh,
those things. So AI,
even better.
yeah, man. So I work with a super nice guy, a guy called Navi. He was the former mayor of San Fernando. So Navi's really
Mhm.
pushing the AI agenda in the medical space. And we've already developed some tools and stuff. So I presented at a couple of medical conferences actually. And interestingly, one of the guys who sort of co-presented on not co-present, he was also at the conference presenting, was a guy from Mayo Clinic.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a Trini guy working at Mayo Clinic, and he's leading up
Okay.
like the AI conversation there when it comes to
Yeah.
radiology. And
Yeah.
I showing him some of the stuff that we do, and he was thoroughly impressed. Right?
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah,
world class
tell us.
stuff, right? So I have so we built like this, a couple of things. So
Yeah.
mental health, that's the easiest one. So like Navi built a mental health app. They're primarily pushing out to organizations where employees could chat with a mental health advisor. That's easy, right?
Yeah.
It's anonymous. It's available 24
Yeah.
hours a day, 7 days a week, right? So that's the easy one. What we're working on is a medical scribe. So you and I sit, you're my patient, I come, I say, okay, cool. At the end of it, after my 30-minute visit with you, I know, right, begrudgingly have to spend the next 15 minutes updating my notes, right?
Yeah.
Updating my patient records, writing you a script, all of you're actually paying for all of that time, right? But in the process of it, there's a next patient that can't be attended to because they're busy with these administrative efforts. So that
Right.
medical scribe you and I will listen to conversation. At the end of it, I say, go write me a prescription, and it goes straight into your inbox. Or better yet, it goes straight to the pharmacist, and you go there, right? And the pharmacist has it ready for you. So
Wow.
e-prescriptions, medical scribes. But the coolest one we did is an image AI. So basically, you could take any medical picture, whether it's an X-ray, ultrasound, CT scan,
Yeah.
ECG, right? You could just take any medical. You could take a picture of that bobo on your foot, and it would give you a first diagnosis. But but
Okay.
but but
Yeah.
could you imagine what that does for healthcare? Because it's very expensive to run an ER. All
Yeah.
right. And it's also like, I know this gentleman is a sort of a personal story, right? So he came
Yeah.
to Trinidad to get healthcare. Out of Barbados, super expensive to get healthcare. He originally from Guyana. He went there, healthcare sucked. He ended up in Trinidad and he was paying for healthcare
Yeah.
in Trinidad. So even that, like, how do we export healthcare to the rest of the world? But he
Yeah.
was here paying for healthcare. He went to the doctor Monday for his procedure. Friday, went back for a checkup. He had a catheter, and they removed the catheter. And
Yeah.
that was like 9 a.m. in the morning. By 1 p.m., he couldn't pass water.
Yeah.
He left it. And then 2 a.m. in the morning, I get a call. The guy's screaming in pain. He's rolled up in a ball in the fetal position. Can't walk. Rush him to the emergency room. They refused to admit the guy without paying a deposit. And I am telling you, this guy couldn't move. He was screaming,
Wow. Yeah.
right? They made a deposit, and the deposits are ridiculous. Within 10 minutes, the
Yeah.
deposit was exhausted. They had to call in a specialist. They had to find an next $25,000, otherwise they wouldn't call the specialist.
Oh my God.
That could have been avoided if he went to a little app and said, "Hey, I just had a XYZ done. I can't pass water. What do you recommend?"
Yeah.
He ended up spending the next 2 weeks in hospital after that. It was
Wow.
awful, awful, right? But that's the state of healthcare in the region.
Yeah.
That is expensive and not accessible. And the reality is this. The reality is in the US, you don't have insurance, you don't have health insurance, you will go bankrupt.
Yeah.
The Caribbean, something is wrong, you don't have health insurance, and you die. That's the reality of our situation here.
Wow.
So could AI help us? 100%. Is it going to be perfect? No, but it's a start because it's
It's
only
a
getting
start.
better. It's only getting smarter. Yeah.
What are some of the barriers that we have that may be unique to the Caribbean when it comes to implementing these
Yeah.
AI solutions to take us to that next level?
I think relative. and it's all relative, right? Because you say any
Yeah.
region. If we had to compare to our next biggest nearest neighbor, it would be the US. And I would
Yeah.
say there are actually less barriers for us than in the US. So
Okay.
the biggest barrier I've seen in the US for AI adoption is the whole outsourcing to India thing. So there's a
Yeah.
real concern about job loss in the US. When
Yeah.
they were outsourcing, they were also nearshoring. So we were sometimes benefactors of those jobs. So we
Yeah.
are not quite as worried about losing jobs. But from
Yeah.
from a technology perspective, from a barrier perspective, what are the barriers for this particular technology? The reality is that there are none. Because this technology is different from everything that we've seen before. There's three primary
Yeah.
reasons. One is it knows everything. Because
Yeah.
it's I mentioned that it's adaptable, it's experienced, because it's
Yeah.
trained on Google data, right?
Yeah.
Two, what is the price? Free.
It's free. Yeah.
Everybody uses it. And then in terms of like having to learn it, if you could Google, you could use these tools. I'm not suggesting that's the best way to use it,
But
right? But if
yeah,
you
point
could Google,
taken.
you get half different results, right? So
Yeah.
it knows everything on the planet. Everybody knows how to use it, and everybody could afford it. There are no barriers for this stuff, right? So it kind of comes back to change management, right? Should like nobody likes change. Even I don't like change. Like I hate
Yeah.
changing my phone. People consider me a technology guy. So it's human nature. So if we address that big piece, right? And the nice thing is, our ship is a smaller ship, so we could move it
Yeah.
quickly. So I think we have a massive advantage over like the US, Canada, the big North American markets.
I agree. I agree with you, which is a perfect segue to my next question. Our biggest problem is not the technology, it is the people component. You're in the space of educating and upskilling people. What is the big challenge that we face when it comes to upskilling an entire nation that would
Yeah.
pretty much rather not have to learn this stuff and still keep things the way that it has been for the last 30
Yeah.
years? How
So
do
I
we move
yeah,
the needle and bring them up?
I wouldn't say people don't want to learn this stuff. Like the biggest challenge I see today when it comes to AI is that people are intimidated by AI.
Yeah.
And for that reason they do nothing. And the reality is this is if you are using the same strategies as before COVID today, then you're losing customers every single day.
Yeah.
So even on our previous session I did, you're talking about the skill sets for entrepreneurs and stuff. I
Yeah.
think what I'm able to do in a far more effective way is to communicate this one key thing
Yeah.
is what's in it for me. And if you could nail that, then you could move anybody. So as a leader in your organization, if you listen to this right now, right, first you need to get it. So it's like that master drops on you playing, you need to put the
Yeah.
mask on, you need to understand it. But then you
Yeah.
put the mask on the other people around you, because that's what the best leaders do. They lift the entire team up. But it starts with getting over that first barrier, understanding what's in it for me, and
Yeah.
then being open-minded about, let's do some training, let's do this, that. And we do a very effective job of that. As I mentioned, my goal this year is to train 300,000 people. Next year is going to be 3 million people. So we already have our targets. And I'm going to cap off at 45 million, that's the population of the region.
I love it.
I'm here
I
I
love
want to
it.
save the Caribbean.
No,
Yeah.
no, I listen, and I'm right there with you. And this is exactly why we're having this conversation. Want people to hear this in the public domain. If you are trying to get into AI, there is a wide variety of skill sets and different avenues that you can take. Is there some popular AI skills that you would recommend that people could start taking a look at to go
Yeah.
and learn?
So if you look at the AI ecosystem, and this is most people think about ChatGPT when they think about AI, but the reality is,
Yeah,
as we've talked about, is that AI touches everything. So it's not
yeah,
just text, it's images, video, movie, music. Like I was at an event in Montego Bay, and at the
yeah.
event was the head of medicine at Yale University. This
Hmm.
guy's a big deal. I
Hmm.
was excited to meet this guy. I have 3 kids. I want to, I'd love to get my kids to do medicine at Yale, right? So
Yeah,
I go up and I run into the guy in the lobby, and he's like, Leslie, super, super nice to meet you. And this guy's excited. I was like, why are you so excited to meet me? Right? He's like, because AI is taking doctors' jobs and da da da. Very open-minded guy, right? But he was excited to
yeah,
meet me, which is wild.
Yeah, yeah.
But his partner was with him, and his partner said something interesting. She said, AI is also affecting my industry. And I was like, what industry is that? She said, I'm a perfumer. I make
Oh,
perfumes. Now, I've never seen an AI with a nose, but if AI is impacting that particular space, right, then you realize all jobs could be potentially impacted. Wild, right? That was a real aha moment for me. But coming back to your question, like, what is the one skill? What if you
yeah.
realize that all these AIs, like, they have one common thing about them, and if you master this one thing, you're able to basically unlock all the other AI, and that's what we teach in our workshop, right?
Yeah.
Beyond a framework to get there and all of those things, and that
Yeah.
is AI, the ability to delegate to AI. What is that? Is that you need to be able to communicate to AI effectively to get it. So you
Yeah.
need to be able to speak to an AI. So growing up, they sent us to school, we learn English, you have to talk to other humans. There's a
Yeah.
skill set that you need to be able to learn to talk to AI now. And if you get that, you could use all the AI out there.
I agree. I agree. I 100% agree. Give us one tip because we're running out of time. I've two more questions I want to ask you, but give us one
So,
tip when it comes to how you should speak to AI.
all right, so there are tons of frameworks out there. We teach a framework called the RTF framework. I don't know
Mhm.
if I could go through it fast enough. I'll just give you the first part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But ultimately, because AI is trained on such a broad body of knowledge, it just kind of randomly picks from that broad body of knowledge. But
Yeah.
if you could tell it how to behave, how to act, if you could give it a role,
Yeah.
then the quality of your outputs become far superior, right? We have the T and the F. That's what we go into in the session. But if you just did that alone, that astronomically improves the quality of your outputs, right? So if you want to write, a medical script, then you say, act like a doctor, because a doctor is really good at writing medical scripts, stuff like that,
Mm.
right?
And
But we
that's
have
a
the
that's a
whole,
very yeah, that's a very powerful tip. My final question before we get your credentials as to where we can find you and enroll in the Incus Academy. Um, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, how do you see AI impacting the educational system
oh
here in
man,
Trinidad and Tobago?
yeah, oh man, so big time. So at first the teachers were like, how could we use plagiarism checkers to stop the students from using AI? And the reality is, if you understand this technology, is you cannot.
Yeah,
Like,
facts.
there are plagiarism checkers out there, and they ran the Constitution of America, which was drafted when 17 along, right? And and AI couldn't figure out if it was plagiarized or not, if it was AI generated or not. So AI generates the
Wow.
work. But then there was a second pass, and the second pass was teachers who said, I really hate scoring exam scripts. Could AI help me with that? And then they started to become a little more receptive. So this is bonkers. The big challenge for education, one of the big challenges for education in the Caribbean is there's a large examining body, and I don't know if I'm allowed to mention them, but there's a large examining body in the region,
Yeah.
and it takes them 4 months to mark all the scripts because they have a team, but the team ramps up for 2 months, 4 months of the year just to do examination scripts, right?
Yeah.
And it takes students 4 months to get those results. We just started an engagement with them, and we want to turn those 4 months into 4 minutes. Imagine you sit an exam, and before you reach the car, you get your result.
Wow. That saves everybody time. That saves money.
Does, does. Because when do people want things today? What is the expectation? They want it now.
They want to know when. So,
Yes,
do you think we're at a point where there should be some form of AI skill being taught in the curriculum?
I do, certainly. And we're actually having some conversations around that. At first, at the exit points for secondary school.
Yeah.
So fifth form, upper six. But I tell you the reality is this. I mean, he was six at the time. He's now nine. My 9-year-old today, at
Yeah.
6 years old, he was sending me messages about, and he was using AI, and I'd never taught him to use any of this stuff.
Wow.
So it's
And
very,
and
very
it makes
accessible. A
sense.
6-year-old could do it. Yeah, 6-year-old could do it, right?
And it makes
So that's where
sense.
we're
And
going.
I was
Yeah.
I was seeing a study the other day where the people that use voice search the most is the teenage crowd.
Younger.
Teenagers are the ones that use they use Siri. They actually use the voice commands a whole lot more. So now when you're
Yep.
thinking that they're going to be speaking to, because I know like okay, I have a Google Pixel, and
Yeah.
my Google Gemini is now the standard default assistant.
Yep.
So now when you're thinking of all of these new superpower AI assistants that are on these phones,
Well,
kids are going to be able to do a lot more just by using
yeah.
voice to
Well,
get
well,
things
here's
done.
what, right? So we spent an hour together, and we haven't even talked about AI agents. And that
You know,
stuff,
you know what?
that
Give me a
stuff.
just give me a quick one on AI agents because that was on my list, and again, there was just so much to talk about.
All right.
What
So
is an
so
AI agent?
high level. Last year, a human made AI, a human created AI. AI agents, if I could put it in a nutshell, is AI making little AI babies by itself. If I could put it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And that's what's coming this year, in that they may not need humans anymore.
You know, and I love the fact that you made that point because one of the things in Thailand is dispensaries are, they're everywhere, right? And I was having a conversation with the dispensary owner, and we were talking about AI. And he was like, he's worried about AI that it's going to come in and take away all these jobs. What are people going to do? And I'm like, they're going to do what I am doing. They're going to be
Yeah,
visiting you. My work is
yeah,
done. I'm done for the
yeah,
day. I can come out
yeah,
and relax. If you
yeah,
are in the service industry, if you can now create experiences, humans are going to have more time. I'm like, you should be smiling.
yeah,
There's gonna be more people with more time. And the minute I told him
yeah.
that, 2 minutes later, one of the suppliers had came from one of the farms, and he thought he had came to for their business meeting. As soon as he said hi, he was like, "Hey, no business today. I'm only here to relax. Business is done." And we just
Yep.
started to laugh because exactly what I said. When you have more time because of AI now,
Hmm.
you're going to be going
I love that.
to go and relax. You're going to go out to the restaurant.
Yeah,
You're going to enjoy these things, but we're going to use AI and it's going to help us tremendously.
yeah. I love that. The future of work might be no work, right? But the reality is this: is that we were not put onto the planet to be robots. Because when we're on our last, right, we're not gonna look back and say, I wish I sent that email. I wish I did that PowerPoint a little better. We're gonna reflect on that memory, that time that we traveled, that we were working remotely, that we were you doing a podcast from a different country on the other side of the planet. Those are the things that we're gonna remember, right? Because those are the things that we love doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but if I left you guys with one thing and one thing alone today is this: is that AI AI is inevitable, but your
Mhm.
relevance is a choice, and we get to choose.
Powerful. Powerful. Leslie, where can we learn more about the Incus Academy? Where could we,
Yeah.
where could we learn more about the courses that you are teaching so that we can choose to be relevant and upskill
So,
and continue on?
so as a special bonus for your listeners, right now, this program I usually do it at $250 a seat. For your listeners, and I'm gonna close the link down in about 5 minutes, but I want you guys to go to this link, go.incusservices.com/Keron. So that's go.incus services.com/Keron. And I'll give you guys a free seat. But I close it down in 5 minutes because I don't want it to go nuts. Right. If you guys are trying to get me, you guys can reach me on LinkedIn.
Perfect, perfect. Leslie, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us. I'm sure we'll be talking to you, in the not too distant future because a lot of things are happening. And again, these are the discussions that I want more people to hear, so that we can upskill our region, upskill Trinidad Tobago, and have them tapping into the opportunities that AI presents itself. Thank you for taking the time to come
Appreciate
on
you,
the
man.
show.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
No problem. Leslie, take care.
Okay, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Leslie Lee Fook from INCUS. And go and check out the link that he provided. Go get yourself. It's a free seat that he is offering you, and that is to come into one of his classes where they're teaching AI skill sets. I think everybody should be learning an AI skill right now because of the importance. When you are hearing things like the US dumping $600 million into building out their AI data centers, when you're hearing what's coming out of China, like I said, the AI race is on. This is going to accelerate the transformation of every single industry that we have known. There are going to be jobs that are lost. But guess what? Going back to the World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum said over the next 5 years, whilst 92 million jobs will no longer exist, there's 170 million jobs that are being created and coming online. And it's 170 million new types of jobs. Where we have to get ourselves, we have to start being okay with the rate of change, understanding that it is okay. We're going to have to reinvent ourselves multiple times. We have to put ourselves in a position to learn these new skills so that we can start to tap in and participate in the global economy. We are not limited to just the options and for employment in Trinidad and Tobago. We can tap into the global workforce, but you're going to need the relevant in-demand skills. Go check out INCUS Academy. Go check out the link that Leslie dropped. Get yourself into that free seat and yeah, enjoy. That is it for me today. We've had yet another great show, starting off with Adana Taylor from Taylor M. Talking about building a fashion business in Trinidad and Tobago and in the Caribbean. And then we ended up with Mr. Lee Fook diving into AI in 2025 and its impact on the Caribbean. You can join me, Keron Rose, every single Friday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. right here on Freedom 106.5. If you want to learn more about building your digital presence and monetizing your platforms, go and check out KeronRose.com. You could go and follow me on YouTube. You can find me on any social media platform. We're always talking about building your brand, building your presence, earning through e-commerce, and also becoming a digital nomad. But all of these things are things that we tackle on my platforms. So I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Digital World. Davey is here. He is inside. He is ready. He's going to be taking you through the overdrive from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. I will see all of y'all next week. Davey, how you doing, bro?